That was exciting.
No, it was annoying.
I enjoyed it.
It's a tale as old as time. Bickering, longing stares, the angst buildup. By now, we can all spot the markings of an epic on-screen romance. And the after-series Tessa Young and Hardin Scott are no exception. So far, only 2 out of the 5 books have hit the big screen. But that was enough to notice some pretty key changes in the characters and even the plot. In this video, we'll be going over all those shocking differences. Did the changes make the movies better or worse than the books? Let's find out. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about Hardin Scott? Well, your answer probably depends on whether or not you've read the novels or watched the films. In the book, author Todd definitely took his broody, angsty attitude to another level. He has intense anger issues from past trauma and can't get through a sentence without dropping an F-bomb. But in the movies, Hardin brought more mystery to the screen than anger.
Whatever our souls are made of, his and mine are the same.
His movie character could definitely be a little arrogant, but his overall book attitude was toned down. Could this be because his behavior in the book was a little too toxic and inappropriate to translate on screen? Nothing screams bad boy like black leather, tattoos, and piercings. And no surprise here, Hardin has all 3, or at least he was supposed to. In the written version of the After series, Hardin is basically littered with tattoos and piercings, and it's why Tessa looks completely bizarre next to him. But just like his personality, his look was completely muted on screen. There were no piercings for actor hero Tiffin, and his tattoos were only really noticeable when he didn't have a shirt on.
What are you doing?
I'm going swimming.
Instead, he looked pretty generic. Attractive, but generic. They did get his wardrobe spot on, so we'll give them that. Josephine Langford did a perfect job of bringing Tessa Young's kindness and innocence to life. Not to mention, she looks basically identical to the way she's described in the novels. But there's one huge difference between book and movie Tessa: her university major. It may not seem like a huge change, but her being an English major is the catalyst to her relationship with Landon and Hardin. Instead, in the movie, she's a business and econ major who, at the end of the first film, thinks about potentially transferring into the English program.
What's your major, Tessa?
I'm thinking business or maybe economics.
The Afterbook series isn't just heated because of Hardin's attitude. If you know, you know. Tessa and Hardin's relationship is super intimate in the novels and super descriptive. After all, the whole plot is based on her inexperience in bed.
Wait. Are you a virgin?
There's a whole bet about it. And while that's still true in the movies, those steamy scenes were toned down to a more wholesome PG-13 version. Some fans might have been disappointed, but it probably helped them expand their audience. Speaking of the bet, it's a little different in the book than it is in the film. On paper, the bet Hardin makes with his friends is that he can take Tessa's virginity and prove it to them. And that's what he does. Proof and all. It's a little harsh and makes you question whether or not you want Tessa and Hardin to end up together. Maybe that's why they made the bet a little more forgiving in the movie. Hardin instead bets that he can make Tessa fall in love with him. He just doesn't plan on falling in love himself.
You lot don't think I can make it happen? Make her fall in love with me?
Like we said before, the book was much more R-rated and overall uncomfortable in certain parts, including the whole idea that Hardin keeps proof of his time together with Tessa. In order to claim his money, he gives up the sheets and contraceptives from his night with Tessa. In the movie, there isn't any need for physical evidence, and it's all by word of mouth. Not that that makes the situation any less heartbreaking for Tessa, but it's certainly less traumatizing and toxic.
What exactly did you tell them then?
Nothing.
One of the biggest character changes has to be Tristan. Tristan is the love interest of Tessa's roommate Steph, but there's one difference between book Tristan and movie Tristan: their gender. In the book, Tristan is a boy, but in the movie, she's a girl. While that doesn't change anything plot-wise, there was a reason for the change. Todd told IBT that it was about being more diverse, and the change makes perfect sense to her.
We can get you into all the best places even without a fake. No problem.
We wouldn't blame you if you let out a groan when you hear the name Carol Young, also known as Tessa's mother. In the novels, she probably could be considered a villain. She's extremely controlling of Tessa's life and even threatens to disown her when she doesn't go along with her big life plan. Thanks to her, we get to see Tessa and Hardin living together, so it's not all bad. But in the movie, we really get to see more of the realistic mother-daughter bond they've grown with one another over the years. She might not agree with Tessa's choices, but she's both more understanding and respectful of her decisions.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, too.
There is a slight change that doesn't really have an impact on the story, but Anna Todd again thought it was important to be more inclusive in the movie than her writing was. That's why Tessa's Professor SOTO was cast as a woman instead of a man.
There you have it. That's the power of a good book.
Molly Samuels might be more annoying than Carol Young. Might.
Cute dress.
She's the constant instigator between Tessa and Hardin, and whenever she's in the room, there's constant tension. She's even the reason Tessa finds out about the bet. However, the movie just doesn't give her the same screen time she got in the books. We get to see so much more of how deceptive she can be on paper. Missed opportunity? Or did the film just save us a whole lot of frustration? Landon is Tessa's rock throughout the series, and eventually ends up becoming close with Hardin too.
So we're brothers. Yep.
While his character is very similar to his book version, there was a change to his physical appearance. In the novel, he's described as resembling David Beckham, but in the movies, they've decided to reimagine him as a person of color. The diversity might be the best change Anna Todd and the directors decided to include in the films. The afterbook ending is a huge cliffhanger and must have tortured people who had to wait in order to get their hands on After We Collided. But the film ended more on a note of closure. While they both end after the aftermath of Tessa finding out about the bet, in the movie, Tessa receives an apology note in the form of a Hardin's essay.
This is what Hardin turned in. I think it was actually written more for you than it was for me.
We then see Tessa head to the lake to meet Hardin. The book doesn't have that type of closure. What's a young adult novel without a love triangle? The After series is definitely not lacking those, that's for sure. At least in the novels. Zed, Hardin's friend, is also in on the bet put up against Tessa, but also ends up developing feelings for her. However, in the films, he's barely mentioned and doesn't play much of a role in Hardin and Tessa's relationship.
Well, look at the cat dragged in.
Instead of Zed, the movie decided to focus more on Trevor, but even then they waited to introduce him. He doesn't pop up in the storyline until the After We Collided film, whereas he's in a lot of the first novel. He is played by Dylan Sprouse, so that could be a big reason why they wanted to focus on this love triangle instead of the one that includes Zed.
Hey Hardin, good to see you. How you been?
Speaking of Trevor, he has a pretty interesting nickname given to him by Hardin in the books. Like we said, Hardin's vocabulary isn't the shiniest. In After We Collided, he always refers to Trevor as
Trevor!
Whereas in the movie, he only gets the chance to call him by his nickname once. Like we mentioned before, Trevor doesn't make an appearance in the films until After We Collided. This is because Tessa doesn't land her internship until the second film. But in the novels, thanks to the Scotts, she gets hired at Vance Publishing in the first book.
Welcome to Vance Publishing.
That also means we don't get to meet other characters like Christian and Kim until the second film. Because of how the After movie ending differed from the book, the movie opening of After We Collided is pretty confusing. Ironically, it's in line with the After We Collided novel, but doesn't make sense for fans of just the movie. The film opens with them being broken up, but how did that happen if the final moments had them at the lake reconciling?
Why haven't you called me?
I've texted you 100 times, you haven't replied.
Despite the changes that were made to our favorite characters, we know that Anna Todd tried her best to bring fans the movie they deserved. Do you think that the changes made Tessa and Hardin's story better or worse? Was there anything that should have stayed the same? Let us know in the comment section below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up so you never miss a The Things upload. Thanks for watching.